Welcome back to Monitors Unboxed. It's time to update our 1440p monitor recommendation guide for the end of 2025. I'm constantly testing new monitors right here on the channel, and products also change in price over time, so there are a bunch of updates in today's video compared to the last edition earlier this year. In fact, across all categories, I think we're recommending new products, so this is a rather large update. 2025 has been a difficult year for monitor recommendations because there's been a lot more price volatility. I'm going to try to do my best to navigate this situation and still make the guide useful for people in North America and other regions around the world. As usual, there will be many recommendations in this video, so hopefully when it comes time to hit the buy button, at least one of these options will be appealing. We have links in the description below to check current pricing and purchase these monitors if you're interested. As with our previous best of videos, I tend to talk about and recommend monitors I've personally tested and know to be good, or monitors that are very similar to products I have tested. It's always worth going back and checking out the dedicated monitor reviews we produce for more in-depth thoughts on each product, but these recommendations are not sponsored in any way by any of these monitor companies. They're based on our testing and reviews. But before I get to my top picks, a quick word from our non-monitor related sponsor of the Best Monitor series.
Today's video is brought to you by Insta360 and the new Link 2 4K webcam now available in white. This unit features a high-performance half-inch sensor delivering crisp 4K video with an AI-powered audio algorithm providing great audio quality via the built-in microphone. Building on the original Link, the Link 2 also has, you guessed it, AI tracking for individuals and groups, as well as gesture control and auto framing. It now also offers modes such as customizable backgrounds and effects, so if you, like me, are sick of the hardware box studio, you can dip down to your local coffee shop and just hang out and relax. The 4K 30fps camera offers excellent video quality even in low light situations, such as this, nice and dark now. I think I look pretty good on the screen, still nice and clear. So really, for a cost-effective solution, the image quality is amazing and can probably really only be bested by something like a professional digital SLR. The Link 2 is also equipped with a gimbal, making it perfect for demos and presentations. Balin, get out of my presentation. It also pairs perfectly with the new Wave speakerphone. So for more information, please click the link in the video description.
For a while now, I've been recommending 1440p mini LED monitors as the best option for affordable mid-refresh rate gaming. That continues in the latter part of 2025, with my first choice being the AOC Q27 G40XMN. If you want a display that's a good price, packs a good resolution and refresh rate, plus delivers great image quality for both SDR and HDR gaming, the Q27 G40XMN is a very solid choice, especially if you mostly play single-player titles. The G40XMN is a 27-inch 1440p 180Hz VA LCD with an impressive 1152 zone mini LED local dimming backlight. This provides true HDR hardware capabilities, unlike similarly priced fake HDR 400 products. And right now you can get all of this at a very attractive $250 US price. Competition is increasing for lower cost true HDR LCDs, but I'm yet to test something as competitive or well performing as this. With 1152 zones, you get much tighter dimming in HDR scenes than edge-lit dim monitors, leading to a better contrast ratio in real-world content, richer blacks and shadows, and a high peak brightness that exceeds 1000 nits. The combination of a VA LCD panel with this many zones leads to a very good HDR experience. This is proper local dimming with fantastic control and minimal blooming. If you want next level image quality that takes the experience beyond a typical SDR screen, the Q27 G40XMN is what you'll be after. This isn't just an HDR monitor though. With the 1440p 180Hz panel, you're getting a great resolution and refresh rate for today's games. Motion performance is pretty good from a VA LCD, and while it's not quite at the level of today's fast IPS panels, it's very solid with minimal dark smearing issues. As this is a monitor you'd primarily buy for single-player HDR gaming, I think the motion experience it offers is perfectly fine. The G40XMN also avoids some of the pitfalls of other low-cost HDR gaming monitors. It has reduced levels of flickering compared to its predecessor and no pixel inversion problem, along with nice optimization of the SDR and HDR modes. The main downsides here are a crappy fixed height stand and weak viewing angles, the latter of which is common among VA LCDs. Early units also seem to suffer a bit from poor firmware tuning, something that can't be resolved through firmware updates as this monitor doesn't support them. When I tested this monitor, I didn't experience any of these early performance issues, but other reviewers like Ratings did, so there is a potential lottery here when buying a unit. However, in the 5 months since I tested this screen, I would imagine most of the new models on store shelves have the latest good firmware version. The Q27G40XMN is a great deal in the US at $250, and it's also typically a fantastic choice here in Australia. But unfortunately, the monitor is not available in Europe, in which case the best option is the older version, the Q27G3XMN. This version has a lower number of backlight zones at 336 and isn't as well tuned for motion, so typically if both models are available, I'd opt for the newer G40XMN. However, the old model has a better height adjustable stand and somewhat superior color accuracy, so not everything is a downgrade. I wish the availability of these great AOC monitors was better. It took ages for the G3XMN to come to Australia, but it is what it is. For now, let's move on to another category. In the late parts of 2025, it's now common to see a ton of budget 1440p options sitting below $200 US. You're not going to find any HDR options in this range, but if you're happy with SDR gaming and want the best bang for buck, this is where you'll find it. In particular, this is a great category for those that primarily play multiplayer games where HDR is less important. A general rule of thumb for this category is you should be looking for around a 60% discount in your region compared to the cheapest OLED. So if you can find a 1440p OLED for say $500, I would spend no more than $200 on one of these monitors. In Australia, cheapest OLEDs are about $700 Australian, so the target price for budget 1440p is around $280 Aussie. Here are some of the options I think are great buys. If you're after a basic, affordable 1440p monitor, I would go with either the MSI MAG275QF or the ASRock PG27 QFT2A. These are both 27-inch 180Hz IPS LCD options with differing strengths and weaknesses, and are both regularly among the cheapest, best bang for buck options on the market. The 275QF delivers better panel performance than the PG27 QFT2A, thanks to faster response time tuning and better out-of-the-box color accuracy. It isn't the most amazing screen going around with no wide gamut capabilities and mediocre uniformity, but it has standard IPS contrast and brightness, along with response times competitive with other models. It's far from slow despite its low price. The main downside is the lack of a height adjustable stand and bare bones build quality, including a limited port selection. These are fine cutbacks on a low-cost monitor. It's better than cutting back on the display panel itself, but if you want something with more features, you'll have to spend more. The PG27 QFT2A includes a better design with a height adjustable stand, so it's preferable if you desire ergonomic control. It also has a neat Wi-Fi antenna built into the stand. It supports a wide color gamut and has both a higher contrast ratio and higher brightness. Overall performance isn't miles off the 275QF, and both offer the same 180Hz refresh rate, but it's slow in response times and isn't as well calibrated. The general quality of the screen is a little better on the MSI model, so it's fair that it's also a little more expensive. The 275QF is typically $160 to $180 US, whereas the PG27 QFT2A is typically around $150. Both are good, low-cost, basic options if you want to jump into 1440p gaming without breaking the bank. If you want to spend a bit more, you can often get a better monitor with fewer compromises and a superior balance of performance and features. One option to look out for is the Asus ROG Strix XG27 ACS, offering a 1440p 180Hz IPS LCD with variable overdrive, so it's one of the best tuned variants for motion performance and it has great color quality. But its regular price is a little high in my opinion. The all-time low of $200 US is an excellent deal. It's okay at $220, but I wouldn't purchase it above $250. MSI's G274QPF-QD is a better monitor than the 275QF, offering a height adjustable stand and a better panel with a super wide quantum dot enhanced color gamut. It's a 27-inch 1440p 170Hz IPS LCD that can occasionally be found for $200 US on sale, at which point it's a great deal. And at $230 it's okay, though on the pricier side. Response time tuning is average, but its feature set makes it one to look out for in your region. One of the newer entrants to this guide is the Gigabyte M27Q2QD, which offers one of the more premium feature sets among budget 1440p monitors. It's a 27-inch 1440p 210Hz IPS LCD, so a little higher refresh rate than its competitors, and it offers a quantum dot panel with variable overdrive. It has great contrast for an IPS LCD, a very good design with a premium height adjustable stand, and additional features like a KVM switch. It's a step above the aforementioned MSI G274 QPF-QD. However, it's set to cost about $250 US, so I'd only consider it on sale or if pricing meets our criteria in your region. These are the main options I'd be considering at the moment. Of course, we have reviewed others over the years that could still be worth buying. LG's low-cost options are a little harder to find and recommend these days, but still could be available to you, similar for older Gigabyte monitors like the M27Q, M27QA. Hopefully, one of those options mentioned here will be a great price in your region, and you'll be happy with the purchase. If you're looking for a great high refresh rate 1440p gaming monitor and just an excellent gaming monitor in general, look no further than today's 27-inch OLED monitors. OLED typically offers the best performance and prices continue to fall, making this category one of the most competitive across the entire market today. There are several reasons to buy an OLED instead of an LCD, which is why I recommend OLED in this category. One is their lightning-fast transition times, leading to elite motion clarity that exceeds an LCD operating at the same refresh rate. And another is their individual pixel control, which allows pixels to fully switch off to display deep, rich zero-level blacks, and it means there's per-pixel local dimming for brilliant HDR control at the pixel level. No backlight zones to worry about. This feature allows OLED to offer proper HDR support with excellent image quality. There are two main 1440p OLED variants, QD-OLED and WOLED. In previous guides, I've tended to recommend QD-OLED because I've felt that panel type has offered the best mix of performance and value. But with new 4th gen primary RGB tandem WOLED panels hitting the market towards the end of 2025, I'm changing this recommendation and now focusing on WOLED, as I think the updated panels are the best for 1440p gaming. 4th gen WOLED has several qualities that make it superior to today's QD-OLEDs. The key quality is brightness. The latest WOLED panels are noticeably brighter in both SDR and HDR content. In SDR, this is the brightest panel type you can get, pushing up to 330 nits versus 250 nits for QD-OLED. In HDR, we also see over 300 nits in bright scenes and up to 1400 nits peak, with some real-world results exceeding QD-OLED peak performance. It does all of this without any of the frustrating panel dimming you get with QD-OLED in bright scenes, which means you get a more consistent brightness experience across a wide range of HDR content. WOLED's layer structure also does a superior job of handling ambient light. One of the main issues with QD-OLED is how it reflects light in brighter rooms, raising blacks and making the screen look grey. This hurts one of the key selling points to OLED, which is its deep blacks. This isn't anywhere near as much of a concern with WOLED, so this panel type tends to look blacker and higher contrast. There's not a huge difference between WOLED and QD-OLED in dark rooms, but if you use your display during the day or under artificial lights, WOLED takes the crown. The 4th gen WOLED panel also brings with it several key improvements over previous WOLED panels, including an updated pixel structure for better text rendering and a wider color gamut. These changes eliminated some of the gaps between WOLED and QD-OLED that were present with previous comparisons. My primary recommendation in this category is the ASUS ROG Strix XG27 AQWMG. It's a 27-inch 1440p 280Hz monitor that uses a 4th gen WOLED panel. This is the best option in my opinion due to its excellent true black glossy coating, which preserves black levels and has fantastic clarity with no grain. If you want the most vibrant experience with colors that pop, glossy WOLED is the way to go, but just be aware that reflections can be an issue in some circumstances. ASUS have also done a great job in terms of overall performance and features. Motion performance is of course very good at 280Hz on an OLED, and ASUS offer fantastic factory calibration with tons of adjustable settings in the SDR and HDR modes to customize it to your liking. We also get the latest ASUS extras like ELMB black frame insertion, the anti-flicker modes, and the Neo proximity sensor, all of which are useful additions. The XG27 AQWMG will be available shortly, within the next month in most regions, at a price point of $600 US, which is extremely competitive given its excellent performance. But another option to consider might be the Gigabyte MO27Q28G, which uses the same panel and is $50 cheaper at $550. The main difference between the ASUS and Gigabyte models is the Gigabyte uses a matte coating, which is better at eliminating reflections, but overall I prefer the ASUS glossy coating, so I'd rather spend the extra $50 to get it. Outside of that, the two monitors offer very similar performance and feature sets, so it's hard to go wrong. Like with the ASUS model, the MO27Q28G is expected to be broadly available within the next month or so, and it's started to roll out in some regions right now. If it's not available for you just yet, I check in with your retailers regularly. With both of these models set to occupy the $550 to $600 price range, it's difficult to recommend a QD OLED at their typical price. The going rate for a 1440p, 240 or 280Hz QD OLED is between $500 and $600 US, so in the best cases, you'll save a small amount of money going QD OLED, and worst cases, these options are a similar price or more expensive. The primary RGB tandem W OLED panels I've just been talking about are better, and at say $500 versus $550, I'd recommend spending just 10% more to get the W OLED screen. But there is a point at which QD OLED options come back into contention. Here in Australia, for example, the MO27Q28G is $900 Australian dollars, matching the US price after currency conversion. But you can get a Dell Alienware AW2725D, a 27-inch 1440p 280Hz QD OLED for just $700. That's a 22% saving compared to the Gigabyte, and at that sort of price, I'd definitely consider QD OLED. The AW2725D is a great product with lots of strengths, it's a monitor I recommend, and I think about a 20% difference is fair between this and 4th Gen W OLED. Depending on what I wanted and how much I wanted to spend on a premium product, I could go either way. The AW2725D is the QD OLED that you should consider first because it's often the best value across the regions I looked at, though in the US it's not especially amazing at $500 US. Some other options worth considering are the MSI MAG271QP-X24 and 273QP-X24, along with the Gigabyte MO27Q2. All three of these are 240Hz monitors compared to the Dell at 280Hz. At a similar price to 4th Gen W OLED, you can also get a higher refresh rate QD OLED, something 360Hz like the Dell Alienware AW2725DF, Gigabyte Aorus FO27Q3, or MSI MPG271QRX, among several others. 360Hz isn't a massive improvement over 280Hz, but it is slightly clearer and has lower input latency, so it could be the better choice for competitive gamers. Just make sure to assess pricing in your region because this is a super competitive category in 2025, and I wouldn't be surprised to see QD OLED sales dropping some of these products below $500 US. Now you might want a 1440p high refresh rate monitor, but for whatever reason you don't want an OLED. Maybe they're too expensive in your region, maybe you don't want to deal with the burn-in risk, or maybe you simply won't benefit from what OLED brings to the table. In this case, there are still a couple of good LCD options on the market today, so long as you aren't paying a huge premium for it. My general rule of thumb here is that you should be aiming for a 30 to 40% discount to downgrade from an OLED to an LCD at 1440p 240Hz. This is because the motion clarity of an LCD at the same refresh rate is worse than an OLED, and typically you'll also lose out on true HDR functionality. Monitors with reduced performance or features should naturally be cheaper, even if they are still solid products at the end of the day, so don't be tempted to overspend here. My first choice in this category is the Gigabyte M27Q3. This is a brand new 27-inch 1440p 320Hz IPS LCD that has started to roll out worldwide and should be available in most regions before the end of the year. It's already available in Australia. Gigabyte are targeting a launch MSRP of $270 US, which is an excellent price for this hardware. Some retailers locally have had it on sale for $360 Aussie, the equivalent of just $220 US, an outstanding bargain. The M27Q3 is a great high refresh LCD. It has variable overdrive, which produces optimal speed across the entire refresh rate range. It's fast and relatively clear at 320Hz for competitive gaming, and it's still speedy with no artifact concerns at lower refresh rates, giving it versatility for other types of games. It's notably faster than some of its 240Hz competitors, both in maximum refresh and transition speed. In addition, it offers good colors that are similar to other IPS LCDs, a great design, and nice features like a KVM switch and USB-C input. In most situations, I would recommend the M27Q3, but there are a few other options to consider that I've recommended previously, including the LG 27GR83Q, Asus XG27AQMR, and MSI G274QPX. Right now though, these are all priced north of $350, which just isn't as good of a deal as the M27Q3. They're good products, and they might be worth buying in your region though, so as always, check the pricing for everything before you make a purchase. If money is no object and you want the absolute best of the best 1440p gaming monitor, right now this is the Asus ROG Swift PG27AQ-WP-W. This uses the very same sort of 4th gen primary RGB tandem WOLED panel I was talking about earlier, but bumped up to a 540Hz refresh rate. This beast does it all, whether you're after the best single player HDR experience or the fastest motion and lowest input lag for multiplayer gaming. All of the benefits I was discussing about the XG27AQ-WMG also apply to the PG27AQ-WP, including its true black glossy coating and fantastic WOLED panel. But there's another trick up its sleeve, a 720Hz 720p dual mode, increasing clarity even further compared to the standard 540Hz 1440p mode. The resolution here is quite low, just 720p, which is problematic in some games that have small text or UI elements, so for the most part I'd recommend sticking with the 540Hz configuration. But it's an interesting bonus feature that in niche use cases might come in handy. The major downside to the PG27AQ-WP is that it's super expensive, debuting at $1,100 US. That's $500 more, or an 83% premium over the Asus 280Hz WOLED for what is otherwise a very similar monitor outside of the refresh rate and the cooler design. If you won't be playing games above 280fps regularly, there's not much point spending that sort of cash on 540Hz. However, it could be justified if you are a highly competitive gamer that wants the best clarity and responsiveness. If the high refresh rate and motion clarity of this monitor is appealing, but you don't want to spend $1,100 US, once again a good way to save money is opting for a QD-OLED instead. The latest 500Hz QD-OLED monitors start at $750 US, like the MSI MAG272QPX50. At 1440p there is little difference between 500 and 540Hz, so the motion clarity these screens offer is just as excellent at a whopping 30% lower price. The battle between WOLED and QD-OLED is also more competitive at these higher price points because the 500Hz QD-OLED panels are brighter than the 240 to 360Hz variants. 500Hz QD-OLED exceeds 300 nits in SDR content, and some HDR scenes are brighter as well, though panel dimming is not solved. The 540Hz WOLED panel is still better in my opinion, but in the flagship category the performance gap between WOLED and QD-OLED is smaller and the price gap is wider. So there's a lot more reason to consider 500Hz QD-OLED here. And that does it for today's monitor recommendation video. Lots and lots of options to choose from, covering most of the 1440p categories I hope you are considering at the moment. As always, if you do want to learn more about the monitors I've been talking about in this video, I have individual reviews available right here on Monitors Unboxed for most of them. I'd also recommend checking the links in the description for updated pricing information, as this does change over time. So check down there if you are watching this video weeks or months after it went live. And of course, you can buy the monitors via those links as well. So anyway, that's it for this one. A ton of testing and reviews go into these monitor recommendation videos, so if you do want to support our channel and all the independent testing and analysis that we do, please consider signing up to our Patreon page. Links to that is in the description below. You do get a couple of monitor-related benefits if you sign up, including our ICC profiles and calibrated settings for all the monitors that we've tested. We've also got our Discord chat, which has a dedicated monitors channel. Great place to get some recommendations. I'm in there chatting with you on occasion as well. So if you're tossing up something, not quite sure on what to go with, the Discord community might be able to help you out there. So anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.